Michael Harris is the hurdles team leader. So Michael, just tell us about the changes to the Cheltenham Festival hurdle handicaps this year.
Yeah, so for the non-novice handicap hurdles, all horses need 5 runs. So novices need 5 runs and non-novices need 5 runs as well. So just gives us a bit more information to which to base the ratings on, and kind of groups the right horses together in the races we want them to be in.
And in terms of that, obviously 5 runs, has that caught trainers out in terms of a few horses not being qualified in time?
There's the odd one that didn't qualify that entered at the initial stage, but probably more so they just didn't get the runs in place or went to go elsewhere. So there's a few that were entered last weekend that didn't end up declaring, so they probably just changed their plans.
In terms of the Boodles, towards the top of their ratings, you've obviously got the likes of Willie the Hugh, Naturally Nimble, etc. And also Stencil, who's obviously attracted support for the race, off 135 here.
Yeah, so Stencil obviously ran at Cheltenham earlier in the year, which was obviously good for us to get the cross sort of contamination of the form. At this stage of the season, you don't get too much sort of Irish and British cross levels with the juveniles, so you kind of got the East India Dock and the Lambert over here. So you've got a few of the horses that are in behind those 2 horses that have run through the season. You've got Hello Neighbour over in Ireland towards the top of the weights in the Boodles. Have obviously finished up close behind him, so quite a nice mix of British form, Irish form, and then Stencil 135 is the racing we have been running to behind East India Dock at Cheltenham earlier in the year.
In terms of the Coral Cup, was there anything here that you thought was tricky to handicap, or particularly eye-catching? I think you mentioned Woodhoh.
Yeah, Woodhoh is an interesting horse. It's been mentioned quite a few times actually. Obviously won here earlier in the season, and the form has been franked quite strongly since. Joyeuse, obviously most notably, sort of went and won after that, and a few others in behind have boosted the form. They were quite a bunched field that day, so I've given it a £3 collateral rise from my initial assessment, which puts it to 141, so £11 higher. You could argue through Joyeuse it could be higher again, but as you say, it was quite a bunch finish that day, so it would probably need to take another step forward in a competitive race.
And then just on the Friday, in terms of the County and the Martin Pipe, obviously there's collateral here in terms of the horse, and that's Kopeck to me. Yes. Obviously very well supported in the build-up to the race. How tricky did you find this horse to rate?
Yeah, it's an interesting answer. It's probably the most tricky and also one of the most straightforward ones, in that it's obviously not run in Britain or Ireland yet. It's had its 5 runs, so it qualifies for all those races. All those races run in France, so it's rated 68 kilo in France. And our current sort of BHA policy with the horses that are imported into this country is ×2 of the French rating. So that's where the 136 comes from. Obviously, you wouldn't like to see them run over here to sort of get a bit of a handle on what that level is worth, but it's not run since May, so it's kind of straightforward that it is what it is. It has to be 136, but obviously it's an unknown of if that level is sort of correct or not at the moment.
In terms of the rest of the race, McClory I can see is 136. I think that horse is favourite for the county. Anything else in terms of the Irish contingent?
Yeah, McClory, we take quite a strong view of the race that he won. He was obviously entered at Kelso this coming weekend. I don't think they've declared which would have been the bonus race that if they'd won at Kelso and then come on to Cheltenham. Obviously, there's lots of horses like that which sort of unexposed, improving horses. The new rule with the 5 runs at least gives us sort of an extra run that you might have had this time 12 months ago. But obviously, we just rate horses on what they've achieved so far. They might then progress, but that's sort of for everyone to decide how much they can still progress.
And obviously handicappers are not allowed to bet, as we know, but is there one horse in the hurdlers in particular that you thought was interesting from your perspective?
I mean, I think the one I'll be watching most closely is the aforementioned Kopeck to me, just because it's a horse that you kind of don't know much about. A lot of the French sort of juveniles that have come over this year have actually, the ratings in France have seemed a bit on the high side, and we've started to drop them down since they've come over. So there's a trainer thought that maybe it could be on the high side. Yes, but then again, it's sort of aggressive profile, and it could be going the other way. So it's just one of those which you wait and see which race it turns up in and how it runs.
Watch live racing now on racingtv.com.